Hello and welcome. Today we are talking about red flags in marriage, recognizing red flags in a crumbling marriage. Marriage is meant to be a partnership built on love, trust, and mutual respect. However, over time, challenges can arise that weaken the foundation of a relationship. Some issues are temporary and can be resolved with effort, while others signal deeper, ongoing problems that, if left unaddressed, can lead to emotional disconnection and even the end of the marriage. Recognizing the warning signs early can make the difference between saving a struggling marriage and allowing it to fall apart. Red flags in a crumbling marriage are often subtle at first. Small changes in communication, affection, or trust that gradually grow into major conflicts. Many couples ignore these signs, hoping the issues will resolve on their own, but neglecting them only deepens the divide. These warning signs can manifest in various ways, including lack of communication, constant criticism, emotional or physical distance, secrecy, and unresolved conflicts. By identifying these red flags and taking proactive steps to address them, couples can work toward healing and strengthening their marriage. The key is awareness, honest conversations, and a willingness to rebuild the connection. We shall explore 10 critical warning signs and how to resolve them before they cause irreversible damage. Number 1. Lack of communication. Communication is the foundation of a strong marriage. When it starts to crumble, the signs are often subtle at first. One key indicator is a noticeable decline in meaningful conversations. Discussions that once felt deep and engaging become surface level or, worse, non-existent. If you find that you and your spouse only talk about logistics, bills, children, schedules, but avoid discussing emotions, dreams, or problems, this is a warning sign. Another clue is when one or both partners prefer silence over conversation. If you feel unheard or ignored when you try to express your thoughts, or if your spouse responds with dismissive answers, this signals disengagement. Also, pay attention to avoidance. If one partner seems to deliberately steer clear of serious discussions or changes the subject when emotions arise, there may be a deeper issue at play. Nonverbal communication is also telling. If your spouse no longer makes eye contact, seems distracted when you speak, or spends more time on their phone than engaging with you, these are all red flags. A lack of communication often leads to misunderstandings, loneliness, and frustration, which, if left unchecked, can create a lasting emotional gap. Resolution to this. The first step in resolving a communication breakdown is recognizing that it exists and committing to improvement. Both partners must be willing to put in the effort. Start by creating a safe space where open and honest dialogue is encouraged. This means setting aside time each day, even if it's just 15 minutes, to talk without distractions. Turn off the TV, put away phones, and focus solely on each other. Active listening is key. Often we listen to respond rather than understand. Instead of interrupting or formulating a reply while your spouse is speaking, practice truly absorbing what they're saying. Nodding, making eye contact, and paraphrasing their words can help reinforce that you are engaged. Another effective strategy is using I statements instead of you statements. For example, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," say, "I feel unheard when we don't talk about our day." This reduces defensiveness and encourages understanding. If communication has completely broken down, consider writing letters to each other. Sometimes putting thoughts on paper allows for more clarity and honesty. Marriage counseling can also be a game changer. A therapist can provide techniques tailored to your relationship's specific challenges. Finally, rekindling shared activities, like date nights, walks, or hobbies, can naturally rebuild communication and emotional connection. Number 2, constant criticism and contempt. Criticism and contempt are two of the biggest relationship killers. They go beyond expressing dissatisfaction and instead attack a person's character, intelligence, or worth. To identify if this is happening in your marriage, pay attention to the way you and your spouse communicate during conflicts and even in daily conversations. Criticism often sounds like blame or judgment rather than constructive feedback. For example, instead of saying, "I feel hurt when you forget our plans," a critical partner might say, "You never care about my feelings. You always forget important things." The key difference is that criticism attacks the person rather than the behavior. If you or your spouse frequently use words like never or always to describe the other's shortcomings, criticism is present. Contempt is even more destructive. It involves sarcasm, mockery, eye-rolling, or speaking in a condescending tone. If you notice that your spouse constantly dismisses your thoughts, belittles your opinions, or makes fun of you in a hurtful way, this is a major warning sign. Over time, criticism and contempt erode respect and create emotional distance. A once loving relationship can turn into one filled with resentment, where one or both partners feel unloved and unappreciated. Resolution. To stop criticism and contempt from ruining your marriage, you must first acknowledge their presence. Both partners need to recognize the harm in attacking each other instead of addressing problems constructively. The first step is shifting from blame to understanding. Instead of accusing your spouse, express your feelings using I statements. For example, say, "I feel unimportant when I'm interrupted," instead of "You never listen to me." This change prevents defensiveness and keeps the conversation focused on the issue rather than personal attacks. Building a culture of appreciation is another essential step. Criticism often arises when partners feel unappreciated. Make a habit of expressing gratitude, even for small things. Saying thank you for everyday gestures, like making coffee or taking out the trash, can create a more positive dynamic. Contempt must be actively eliminated. If you catch yourself or your spouse rolling your eyes using sarcasm or belittling, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, would I speak this way to a friend? If the answer is no, then your spouse deserves better. If past wounds have fueled contempt, rebuilding respect is necessary. This may involve counseling, reading books on healthy communication, or practicing active listening exercises. A marriage therapist can help couples break the cycle of negativity and replace it with constructive conflict resolution. Finally, focus on connection rather than correction. Strengthening emotional intimacy through shared experiences, laughter, and vulnerability can reduce criticism and increase mutual understanding. Number 3, emotional or physical distance. Emotional and physical distance in a marriage doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that starts with small changes in behavior, eventually leading to a deep disconnect. Recognizing these warning signs early is crucial to saving the relationship. One of the first indicators is a lack of emotional engagement. Conversations that once felt intimate and personal may become routine or transactional. If you and your spouse only talk about responsibilities, bills, kids, chores, but avoid discussing emotions, dreams, or personal thoughts, it's a sign that the emotional bond is weakening. Another red flag is the loss of physical affection. This doesn't only mean sex. Simple gestures like holding hands, hugging, or casual touches might decrease. If you realize that physical intimacy has become rare or feels forced, it may indicate an underlying emotional disconnect. Avoidance is another major clue. If one partner consistently chooses to stay late at work, spends excessive time on hobbies, or finds excuses to be away from home, it could be a sign of emotional withdrawal. Similarly, excessive screen time, constantly being on the phone, watching TV, or scrolling through social media instead of engaging with each other, points to disengagement. Indifference is even more alarming than arguments. When a spouse no longer reacts to conflicts, stops expressing concerns, or seems emotionally unbothered by problems in the relationship, they may have emotionally checked out. Silence and avoidance replace communication and effort. Another indicator is a decrease in shared activities. If you no longer enjoy spending time together, or if your partner prefers to do things alone or with others rather than with you, this signals a growing gap. Lastly, pay attention to how you feel in the relationship. If you often feel lonely even when your spouse is around, if you crave emotional connection but receive little in return, or if you feel like you're living separate lives under the same roof, emotional and physical distance is present. Resolution. Rebuilding emotional and physical intimacy requires patience, awareness, and mutual effort. The good news is that distance doesn't mean the end of a marriage. Many couples successfully restore their connection with the right approach. The first step is acknowledging the issue. Have an honest conversation with your spouse about the emotional or physical gap you're feeling. Instead of blaming them, express your feelings with vulnerability. I miss spending time with you, or I feel disconnected from you and I want to fix it. This keeps the conversation open and non-confrontational. Next, make intentional efforts to reconnect emotionally. Set aside quality time for meaningful conversations. Ask about each other's feelings, goals, and experiences. Bring back date nights, even if they're simple. Start doing activities you used to enjoy together, whether it's cooking, watching movies, or going on walks. If physical intimacy has declined, start with small affectionate gestures. Holding hands, hugging, and casual touches help rebuild physical closeness. It's important to ensure that intimacy doesn't feel forced. Let it develop naturally as the emotional bond strengthens. Another powerful strategy is expressing appreciation. Emotional distance often stems from feeling unrecognized. Make a habit of complimenting and thanking each other for small things. Feeling valued can reignite emotional warmth. If the distance is due to unresolved conflicts or past hurts, addressing those issues is essential. Holding on to resentment creates walls between partners. Consider having deep, healing conversations about any unspoken grievances or seeking counseling if needed. Finally, reduce distractions and be present. Set boundaries with work, social media, and outside obligations to prioritize your relationship. If you find that you or your spouse are constantly busy or distracted, actively schedule time to be together without interruptions. By prioritizing reconnection, being intentional with affection, and addressing underlying issues, emotional and physical closeness can be restored. Number 4, frequent arguments without resolution. Every couple argues, but when conflicts become repetitive and unresolved, they can create deep emotional wounds. If you and your spouse seem to argue about the same issues without ever reaching a resolution, this is a sign that the marriage is in trouble. One way to recognize this pattern is by examining how disagreements unfold. Healthy arguments focus on solving a problem, but when fights become about winning rather than understanding, they become destructive. Do your arguments often escalate into yelling, name-calling, or bringing up past mistakes? If so, the real issues may be buried under emotional reactions rather than being addressed directly. Another sign is when minor disagreements turn into full-blown fights. For example, a simple discussion about household chores might escalate into accusations about who does more in the marriage. This often means that underlying resentments are being triggered during arguments, rather than the actual topic being the real issue. Stonewalling is another major warning sign. If one or both partners shut down, give the silent treatment, or walk away mid-argument, it prevents resolution. While taking a break to cool off is healthy, completely avoiding the conversation or refusing to revisit it leads to lingering frustration. Unresolved arguments create emotional distance. If you or your spouse feel exhausted and disconnected after each disagreement, or if fights leave you feeling hopeless rather than closer to a solution, it's a red flag. Additionally, if one partner frequently avoids bringing up concerns because they fear an argument will spiral out of control, communication in the marriage is breaking down. Over time, unresolved conflicts lead to built-up resentment, where small triggers cause disproportionate reactions. If you notice that every disagreement feels like a repeat of past arguments with no progress, it's a sign that the marriage is stuck in a negative cycle. Resolution. The key to breaking the cycle of unresolved arguments is changing how you approach conflict. The goal should not be to win, but to understand and resolve issues together. First, identify the real issue behind the arguments. Many fights are surface level, but stem from deeper frustrations. For example, constant arguments about house chores may really be about feeling unappreciated. Instead of just arguing over responsibilities, discuss what emotions and needs are being overlooked. Use I statements instead of blame. Instead of saying, "You never listen to me," say, "I feel unheard when my concerns aren't acknowledged." This approach makes your spouse less defensive and encourages open dialogue. Learn to take breaks productively. If an argument is getting too heated, agree to pause and cool down before continuing the discussion. But make sure to return to the conversation rather than sweeping it under the rug. Active listening is crucial. Many arguments escalate because both partners are waiting to respond rather than truly hearing each other. Practice reflecting back what your spouse says before responding. For example, "I hear that you feel unappreciated when I don't help with chores. Is that right?" This shows you value their perspective. Compromise rather than demand. Instead of pushing your own way, work together to find a middle ground that respects both partners' needs. For example, if arguments about finances are common, creating a joint budget together can address concerns before they turn into fights. Apologize and forgive genuinely. If an argument turns hurtful, acknowledging your mistakes and apologizing sincerely can heal wounds. Likewise, letting go of past grudges instead of bringing them up in every fight allows the relationship to move forward. If conflict patterns are deeply ingrained, couples counseling can be extremely beneficial. A therapist can help both partners learn healthy conflict resolution techniques tailored to their relationship. By shifting from blame to understanding, practicing better communication, and working toward compromise, couples can break the cycle of unresolved fights and rebuild a healthier, more harmonious relationship. Number 5, secretive behavior. Secrecy in a marriage can erode trust and create emotional distance. While personal privacy is important, secretive behavior often signals a deeper problem. Identifying it early is crucial before it leads to a major betrayal or complete breakdown in trust. One of the first signs of secretive behavior is a sudden change in openness. If your spouse was once comfortable sharing details about their day, thoughts, and experiences, but now seems distant, guarded, or dismissive, it may indicate they are hiding something. They might avoid direct questions, change the subject quickly, or become defensive when asked about their activities. Unexplained absences or sudden schedule changes are also red flags. If your spouse frequently stays late at work, takes unexpected trips, or starts spending more time away from home without a clear explanation, you may need to investigate further. Another common indicator is protective behavior over phones, emails, or social media accounts. If your partner suddenly adds passcodes, hides their screen when texting, deletes messages, or takes phone calls in private, they may be keeping something from you. While respecting privacy is important, excessive secrecy over communication is unusual in a trusting relationship. Financial secrecy is another major red flag. If your spouse is making large withdrawals, hiding bank statements, or opening new credit cards without discussing them, there could be hidden debts, undisclosed spending, or even financial infidelity. Lastly, trust your intuition. If you feel like something is off, but can't pinpoint exactly why, pay attention to inconsistencies in your partner's words and actions. Do their explanations not add up? Do they react aggressively or dismissively when you ask simple questions? Secrecy often breeds suspicion, and if your marriage is beginning to feel like a guessing game, it's time to address it directly. Resolution. Restoring trust after secretive behavior requires honesty, vulnerability, and clear communication. Both partners must be willing to confront the issue and work toward transparency. The first step is having an open conversation. Choose a calm, private moment to express your concerns without accusing or assuming the worst. Instead of saying, "I know you're hiding something," approach it with curiosity and concern. "Lately, I've felt a distance between us, and I want to understand why." This encourages your spouse to share rather than become defensive. Rebuilding trust requires transparency. If secrecy has damaged the marriage, both partners should be willing to create a more open environment. This might mean sharing passwords, if mutually agreed upon, discussing daily activities openly, or setting expectations about financial decisions together. However, transparency should be voluntary, not forced. Demanding constant surveillance can push a partner further away. If the secrecy was related to a specific issue, like financial problems or an emotional affair, the root cause must be addressed. Was your partner hiding money because they were ashamed of overspending? Were they talking to someone else because they felt emotionally neglected? Understanding the underlying issue is key to preventing it from happening again. Re-establish routines of trust. If secrecy has caused distance, rebuild closeness by engaging in shared activities, having honest check-ins, and making quality time a priority. When both partners feel valued and connected, the temptation to keep secrets decreases. For more serious breaches of trust, such as infidelity or hidden addictions, professional counseling may be necessary. A therapist can help facilitate conversations that might be too difficult to navigate alone and offer tools to restore trust effectively. Ultimately, addressing secretive behavior with openness and understanding can help a marriage recover and become stronger. However, if a partner refuses to change secretive patterns, despite repeated conversations, it may indicate a deeper issue that requires serious reflection on the future of the marriage. Number 6, lack of support and teamwork. Marriage is a partnership, and when one or both partners stop supporting each other, the relationship starts to feel lonely and unbalanced. A lack of teamwork can manifest in different areas of life: emotional, financial, domestic, or personal growth. Identifying these signs early can help prevent deeper resentment. One of the first signs is feeling like you're doing everything alone. Whether it's managing household responsibilities, making important decisions, or handling family matters, you may notice that your spouse is disengaged or uninterested in contributing. If you constantly feel overburdened while your partner appears indifferent, it could indicate a lack of partnership. Another red flag is emotional neglect. If your spouse is no longer your biggest cheerleader, if they dismiss your dreams, minimize your problems, or seem indifferent to your struggles, it can create emotional isolation. You might feel unsupported when facing personal challenges or career goals, which can lead to resentment over time. A lack of support is also evident when one partner is consistently prioritizing their own needs while ignoring the others. If your spouse frequently makes decisions without consulting you, dismisses your concerns, or expects you to adapt without considering your feelings, the teamwork dynamic is broken. Watch for changes in how you celebrate each other's successes. In a healthy marriage, partners celebrate achievements together, no matter how big or small. If your spouse shows little enthusiasm for your accomplishments or responds with indifference or even jealousy, it may indicate emotional disconnection. Another way to recognize this issue is by assessing how conflicts are handled. Are you working together to solve problems, or does every disagreement feel like you're fighting against each other? If arguments frequently end with one person feeling unheard, or if there's a pattern of blame rather than cooperation, the marriage lacks teamwork. If you feel like your spouse is more of a roommate than a partner, if you no longer feel like you have each other's back, or if you hesitate to ask for help because you expect resistance, it's a sign that the support system in your marriage is breaking down. Resolution. Restoring teamwork and support in a marriage requires both partners to acknowledge the imbalance and make a conscious effort to work together again. It's about shifting from me versus you to us versus the problem. The first step is having an honest conversation about your needs. Instead of blaming your spouse, express how their lack of involvement affects you. For example, say, "I feel overwhelmed managing everything alone, and I'd love for us to work together more," rather than, "You never help with anything." This encourages a cooperative mindset rather than defensiveness. Next, clarify expectations and responsibilities. If the imbalance is related to household tasks, finances, or childcare, create a plan together. Discuss who is responsible for what and ensure both partners feel it's fair. Sometimes one person doesn't realize the burden they placed on the other, until it's openly addressed. Encourage mutual support in personal and emotional areas. If your spouse has been emotionally distant, reconnect by asking about their goals, concerns, and interests. Show enthusiasm for their successes and expect the same in return. Small gestures, like checking in on each other's well-being, offering words of encouragement, or simply being present, can rebuild emotional closeness. If conflicts often create division rather than solutions, practice problem-solving as a team. When disagreements arise, remind each other that you're on the same side. Instead of competing to be right, focus on finding solutions that work for both partners. Sometimes, a lack of teamwork stems from deeper issues such as stress, resentment, or external pressures. If this is the case, counseling can provide a neutral space to address these concerns and help rebuild a supportive dynamic. Ultimately, a strong marriage thrives on mutual support. When both partners make a conscious effort to uplift and assist each other, both emotionally and practically, the relationship becomes stronger, more balanced, and fulfilling. Number 7, decrease in communication. Communication is the foundation of any healthy marriage. When it starts to break down, emotional distance and misunderstandings grow. A decrease in communication doesn't always mean complete silence. It can manifest in subtle ways that, over time, weaken the bond between spouses. Recognizing these signs early is key to preventing long-term damage. One of the first signs of communication decline is a shift in the depth of conversations. In the early days of your marriage, you may have shared your thoughts, dreams, and daily experiences openly. But if your conversations have become limited to only logistical topics, bills, schedules, errands, it may indicate emotional disconnection. If deeper, meaningful discussions feel forced or non-existent, it's a warning sign. Another major red flag is frequent misunderstandings or misinterpretations. When communication weakens, spouses stop actively listening to each other, leading to unnecessary conflicts. If you often feel like your words are twisted, ignored, or brushed aside, your marriage may be suffering from a communication gap. Avoidance is another key indicator. If one or both partners prefer to stay silent rather than express concerns or frustrations, it may mean that communication feels unsafe or pointless. This is particularly dangerous because unresolved issues begin to pile up, leading to resentment and emotional withdrawal. Technology can also play a role in communication decline. If one or both partners are more engaged with their phones, social media, or TV than with each other, it creates a barrier. If you realize that you spend more time staring at screens than having real conversations, it's time to reevaluate. Lastly, observe how your arguments unfold. Are they productive, or do they escalate into fights or silent treatments? Healthy communication allows for disagreements to be resolved constructively. But if conflicts lead to long periods of ignoring each other or repeating the same unresolved issues, it indicates deeper communication problems. If you find yourself feeling lonely even when your spouse is present, or if you hesitate to share your thoughts and feelings because it doesn't seem worth the effort, it's a clear sign that communication is deteriorating. Resolution. Restoring communication in a marriage requires effort, patience, and a commitment to listening and understanding each other. The goal is not just to talk more, but to talk effectively and meaningfully. The first step is acknowledging the issue. Have an open and non-blaming discussion with your spouse. Instead of saying, "You never talk to me anymore," try, "I miss the deep conversations we used to have, and I want us to reconnect." This makes it clear that the goal is to strengthen the relationship, not criticize. Next, rebuild communication through intentional effort. Set aside time each day to talk, without distractions. Even 15 minutes of focused conversation can make a difference. Ask open-ended questions like, "How was your day?" or "What's been on your mind lately?" to encourage deeper dialogue. Active listening is essential. Often, people listen only to respond rather than to understand. Practice reflecting back what your spouse says. "So you're feeling overwhelmed with work?" This validates their feelings and shows genuine interest. Use I statements instead of accusations. If communication has been tense, reframe how you express concerns. Instead of, "You never pay attention to me," say, "I feel distant when we don't spend time talking." This reduces defensiveness and encourages a constructive response. Bring back shared activities that encourage conversation. Go for walks, cook together, or set up date nights without screens. Sometimes engaging in a relaxed activity allows for easier, more natural conversations. If conflicts are a barrier to communication, establish healthy ways to resolve disagreements. Set rules such as no yelling, no interrupting, and taking breaks if needed. The goal should always be resolution, not proving a point. Finally, if communication has severely deteriorated, consider counseling. A therapist can provide tools to rebuild effective communication and break patterns of avoidance or hostility. Restoring open, honest, and respectful communication can reignite emotional intimacy and strengthen the marriage. The key is making an effort every day to truly listen, share, and connect. Number 8, loss of physical intimacy. Physical intimacy is a crucial component of a healthy marriage, encompassing not just sex, but also affectionate gestures like hugging, kissing, holding hands, and even casual touches. When intimacy declines, it often signals emotional distance, unspoken resentment, or unresolved issues. Recognizing the signs early can help prevent further detachment. One of the clearest indicators of a loss of intimacy is a significant decrease in physical affection. If you and your spouse used to frequently touch, cuddle, or exchange affectionate gestures, but now barely make physical contact, it's a sign of emotional and physical withdrawal. When even small touches, like a hand on the shoulder or a kiss before leaving, become rare, intimacy is fading. Another red flag is avoiding sex or showing disinterest in physical connection. If either partner consistently turns down intimacy or makes excuses to avoid it, such as claiming to be too tired, too busy, or not in the mood for extended periods, it suggests deeper emotional or relational issues. While fluctuations in sexual activity are normal, a prolonged lack of desire can create feelings of rejection and frustration. Communication about physical intimacy also becomes strained. Do conversations about sex or affection feel uncomfortable, forced, or non-existent? If one or both partners avoid discussing their needs or feelings regarding intimacy, it often means the issue is being ignored rather than addressed. Another sign is emotional disconnection outside of the bedroom. Physical intimacy is deeply connected to emotional closeness. If conversations are minimal, quality time is lacking, or there's an overall sense of distance, physical affection may naturally decline as well. When spouses stop making eye contact, smiling at each other, or expressing warmth in daily interactions, intimacy suffers. Lastly, pay attention to how your spouse reacts to physical touch. If they flinch, pull away, or seem irritated when touched, it could mean they are feeling emotionally disconnected or harboring unresolved resentment. On the other hand, if neither of you makes an effort to initiate physical contact, it may indicate you've grown accustomed to the lack of intimacy, which can be even more dangerous for a marriage. If you feel like you and your spouse are living more like roommates than romantic partners, and if physical intimacy has become a rare or awkward occurrence, it's a strong sign that your marriage needs attention. Resolution. Restoring physical intimacy requires patience, emotional connection, and open communication. The goal is to rebuild trust, desire, and comfort in physical closeness rather than forcing affection. The first step is talking about the issue without blame or pressure. Choose a calm moment to express your feelings, saying something like, "I miss the affection we used to share. I want us to reconnect physically, but I also want to understand how you feel." This opens the door for an honest discussion rather than making your spouse feel pressured or criticized. Rebuild emotional intimacy first. Physical connection is deeply tied to how emotionally safe and valued both partners feel. Spend quality time together, have meaningful conversations, and show appreciation for each other in small ways. Even non-physical gestures like leaving a sweet note or complimenting your spouse can create warmth and closeness. Start with small, non-sexual touches. If sex feels like a big leap, begin by incorporating casual physical affection into daily interactions. Hugging before leaving the house, holding hands while watching TV, or giving a spontaneous kiss. This helps normalize touch without pressure. Make intimacy a priority, but not a chore. If life's responsibilities have caused intimacy to take a back seat, schedule time to reconnect. Whether it's through a date night, a weekend getaway, or simply spending an evening without distractions. However, intimacy should never feel like an obligation. Instead, focus on creating moments that encourage natural connection. If unresolved resentment is a barrier, address it directly. Sometimes lack of intimacy stems from lingering emotional wounds. If one partner feels unheard, unappreciated, or hurt by past actions, it can create an emotional wall. In such cases, resolving those underlying issues is crucial before expecting physical closeness to return. Try new ways to reconnect. Engaging in new activities together, whether it's dancing, exercising, cooking, or even trying something playful like giving each other massages, can reignite attraction and comfort with touch. If the issue has persisted for a long time and discussions about it lead nowhere, consider seeing a couples therapist. A professional can help navigate emotional blocks, communication barriers, or deeper issues that may be affecting intimacy. Physical intimacy is not just about sex. It's about feeling connected, desired, and valued in a relationship. By nurturing both emotional and physical closeness, couples can gradually restore the affection and warmth that make a marriage fulfilling. Number 9, constant criticism and lack of appreciation. Criticism, when excessive or delivered harshly, can be incredibly damaging to a marriage. While constructive feedback is necessary for growth, constant negativity erodes self-esteem, creates resentment, and replaces warmth with hostility. When appreciation fades and one or both partners feel undervalued, the marriage can start to feel like an emotionally draining space rather than a place of love and support. One of the earliest signs is a shift from supportive communication to fault-finding. If conversations are filled with corrections, sarcastic remarks, or nitpicking over small issues, criticism has taken center stage. Instead of acknowledging efforts, one partner might always point out what's wrong. You didn't do this right, or why do you always mess this up? These comments, when frequent, can make the criticized partner feel like they are never good enough. Another indicator is negative comparisons. If a spouse frequently compares their partner to others, whether it's friends, co-workers, or even past relationships, it can breed insecurity and resentment. Statements like, "Why can't you be more like so-and-so?" send the message that their partner is inadequate. A decline in appreciation is another red flag. If expressions of gratitude and recognition have disappeared, and efforts go unnoticed or unacknowledged, one or both partners may start feeling unappreciated. For example, if one spouse regularly contributes to household tasks, emotional support, or financial stability but never receives a simple thank you, resentment can grow. Criticism also manifests in nonverbal ways. Eye-rolling, sighing, dismissive body language, or a tone of frustration all communicate disapproval, even if words aren't spoken. If one partner constantly feels like they are walking on eggshells to avoid criticism, emotional intimacy is being replaced by tension. Over time, excessive criticism and lack of appreciation kill affection and emotional connection. When a spouse feels undervalued, they may withdraw emotionally, stop trying to please their partner, or even start seeking validation elsewhere. If most interactions feel draining rather than uplifting, it's a clear sign that the relationship dynamic needs to change. Resolution. Rebuilding appreciation and reducing criticism requires both partners to shift their communication style and make a conscious effort to create a more supportive environment. The first step is self-awareness. If you or your spouse frequently criticize, take a step back and reflect on why. Is it frustration from external stress? Is it an attempt to control certain behaviors? Understanding the root cause of constant criticism is crucial for stopping it. Replace criticism with constructive communication. Instead of attacking with negative statements like, "You never do anything right," try phrasing concerns more productively. "I appreciate it when you help with chores. Could we find a way to divide tasks more evenly?" This shifts the focus from blame to problem solving. Make appreciation a daily habit. Compliment your spouse's efforts, no matter how small. Say things like, "I love how you handled that situation," or "Thank you for always being there for me." Even a simple "I appreciate you" can rebuild emotional warmth. Focus on strengths instead of flaws. No one is perfect, and magnifying a partner's weaknesses only leads to more frustration. Instead of dwelling on what they do wrong, recognize and verbalize what they do well. If they struggle with certain tasks, offer gentle encouragement rather than criticism. Set a positive tone in conversations. If most interactions have become negative, consciously inject warmth into daily exchanges. Smile more, use affectionate language, and express gratitude. Over time, this helps shift the overall energy of the relationship from critical to supportive. If criticism stems from unmet expectations, discuss them openly rather than resorting to negativity. For example, if one spouse feels their efforts aren't reciprocated, they should express this in a calm conversation rather than through passive-aggressive comments. Finally, if criticism has already caused deep resentment, couples counseling may be helpful. A therapist can provide tools to break unhealthy communication patterns and rebuild mutual respect. Shifting from criticism to appreciation doesn't happen overnight, but with consistent effort, a marriage can transform from a space of negativity to one of encouragement and gratitude. Number 10, keeping secrets and lack of transparency trust is the foundation of a strong marriage. And when secrets start to build, that foundation begins to crack. While privacy is important in any relationship, secrecy is different. It involves deliberately hiding information that could affect the relationship. A lack of transparency can range from small deceptions to major betrayals, but in any form, it weakens trust and creates emotional distance. One of the earliest signs is a change in openness. If your spouse once shared details about their day, thoughts and feelings, but has become vague or dismissive, it may indicate they are withholding information. Responses like, "Nothing, don't worry about it," or "It's not important," when you ask about their day or mood can signal emotional distancing. Another red flag is inconsistencies in stories or behavior. If your partner's explanations frequently change, if they hesitate when answering simple questions, or if they seem overly defensive about harmless inquiries, it may indicate they are hiding something. Increased privacy around devices is another warning sign. If your spouse suddenly becomes protective of their phone, frequently deletes messages, or takes calls in another room, they may be keeping something from you. While everyone deserves personal space, drastic changes in behavior suggest a deeper issue. Financial secrecy can also be a major red flag. If your spouse starts hiding purchases, opens secret bank accounts, or refuses to discuss financial matters, it can indicate a lack of trust and shared responsibility in the marriage. Another sign is emotional withdrawal. Keeping secrets creates an emotional barrier. If your partner seems distant, avoids eye contact, or becomes irritable when asked about certain topics, it may be a sign that they are carrying guilt or fear of being discovered. Lastly, intuition should not be ignored. If something feels off in the relationship, if you sense that your spouse is hiding something but can't pinpoint what, it's important to pay attention. While it's crucial not to jump to conclusions, consistent gut feelings often indicate underlying issues that need to be addressed. Resolution. Rebuilding trust and transparency requires open communication, honesty, and a willingness to work through any underlying issues that led to secrecy in the first place. The first step is creating a safe space for honesty. If your spouse feels they will be met with immediate anger or judgment, they may continue hiding things out of fear. Approach the conversation calmly, saying something like, "I feel like we're not as open with each other as we used to be. I want us to feel comfortable sharing everything." This opens the door for honesty rather than confrontation. Be honest about your own feelings. Express how secrecy makes you feel, whether it's distrust, confusion, or emotional distance, without accusing your partner. Use I statements such as, "I feel disconnected when I sense you're keeping things from me," instead of "you're always hiding things." If the secrecy involves specific behaviors, such as financial dishonesty or emotional infidelity, set clear expectations for transparency moving forward. This might mean agreeing to share financial decisions, being open about social interactions, or discussing boundaries around privacy and secrecy. Encourage consistent, open communication. Make it a habit to check in with each other daily, not just about major issues, but about feelings, concerns, and experiences. The more you practice openness in everyday conversations, the less room there is for secrecy to grow. If trust has already been broken, rebuilding takes time and effort. The person who kept secrets must be willing to regain trust through actions, not just words. This may involve being more open with their phone, finances, or daily activities until trust is restored. Forgiveness is an essential part of the healing process. If your spouse acknowledges their secrecy and commits to being open, try to move forward without holding on to resentment. However, repeated dishonesty or refusal to change may indicate deeper trust issues that require professional help. If secrecy has deeply damaged the marriage, counseling can provide a safe space to rebuild trust. A therapist can help both partners understand the reasons behind the secrecy and guide them toward healthier communication patterns. Ultimately, a healthy marriage thrives on honesty, openness, and trust. By prioritizing transparency and making an effort to communicate openly, couples can strengthen their bond and create a relationship where secrets no longer have room to grow. Kindly like, subscribe, click the notification bell, comment, and share our videos. Thank you. God bless you real good.